drag you down. Singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's a standard, the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Fuck.
All right, put down your pens, put down your pencils, step away from your keyboards and settle in for this week's episode of The Writer's Block. First and foremost, allow me to thank Don and Sally Wright for giving birth to me, because without them, none of this would be possible. Also, let me thank the Narcissist Cookbook for allowing me to use his music at the beginning and the end of every episode. And if you go over to his channel on YouTube, you can hear him do a completely legal reading of the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And it is fantastic. And it's completely legal, he says. So I definitely recommend you check that out. Also, allow me to thank Casey Neth for the kava.
Casey? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, Casey.
Super fan Casey Neth bought the kava for this week's episode. So thank you, Casey, for letting me and Axl drink kava on tonight's show. To all of those above, and to my guest Axl, Bula Vanaka.
Well, here, cheers.
Yeah,
Proper
way. So today on my show, I've got all my notes covered up. I have my good buddy Axl David. He is here from the National Motorist Association. He is the former communications director for the Libertarian Party of Tennessee, and just an all-around great guy. Axl, thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you. I think the funniest part about the Muddied Waters of Freedom Global studio here, you go to the Bernie Sanders mailbox and turn right.
That's true. That's actually true. You do. That is the best way to figure out how to get to my house. I'm across the street from the Bernie Sanders house.
From the Bernie box.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was doing the campaign, when I was working on the 2016 campaigns, I had like a Gary Johnson sign and a couple of the locals. I had a couple of their signs up, and they were always going missing. And I just always assumed that it was the Bernie Bros across the street.
Be ballsy of them, but
when I was working on a campaign, I was working on a local campaign, state house, and I was working for a guy, Ray Blackledge. He ended up losing to the girl he lost to, whose name I forget. Who lives here in town. She's like 6 houses down. But I had a Ray Blackledge sign out because I was working for him, and I was like, yeah, I'll put a sign out for him since you're paying me. And that sign was constantly it wasn't taken. It was never taken, but it was always taken out and laid down on the ground. And I was like, I'm going to put it...
How petty is that?
I know. It was exceptionally petty. And I made a joke with my buddy, one of my buddies, TJ, and I said, "Can we wire electricity?"
I think it's the funniest videos on there when you saw a lot with the Trump signs where people would like electrify the signs, and you don't even have to put it around it. Like you electrify the H stakes. Yeah. And so when they go to they quickly go pull it up, they just electrocute the hell out of themselves. Yeah. That's hilarious. I honestly, you can't help but not think they deserve that stuff.
No, absolutely. Because when that was going on, I was coming home and I was walking neighborhoods for him. And so I was out in the heat all day long in the middle of summer. It's Florida. I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I hate everybody at this point because I've had 47,000 doors slammed in my face. I've been told I'm the evil incarnate because I'm rooting for a Republican, which... I wasn't really rooting for the Republican. I was rooting against the Democrat, and there was no other option in the race. And he was giving me money to be there. Yeah. So I would come home, and the sign would just be lying in my grass, and I would just be like, mother.
I even invest just in a cheap camera and just have it zoomed in on that. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that just really. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Oh yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. No.
Shit like that bugs me, and it's just be respectful. And for me, I'm so neurotic that I would put a sign in my front yard, but I would be constantly watching it And every time a car went by or someone walked by, I'd be there checking it, like with my blinds out. So I don't have that stress that would lead me. It's like nothing in my front yard.
Right. Yeah. So like, when I first moved here, you walked through my house. This office was originally in the front room, where like right when you walked in, that's where I set up my computer and everything, so that way I had a window, because that was nice. And so I'd just sit there and I would like do work out there. And I was sitting there one day and I was doing some freelance writing and I'm typing, and my next door neighbor, the woman who still lives there, walks her dog over into my yard and lets her dog go to the bathroom, and then she walks back and doesn't clean it up, doesn't do anything. And I'm just sitting there like, I can't, did she really just do that? And
shame that shit, man.
yeah, I was so taken back by it, because I was like, why would she do that? So this was back when I still drank heavily, and this will lead you to realizing why I don't do that anymore. But I was walking back from the bars because, one DUI is enough.
Yeah.
I was walking.
We'll get into that. Go ahead.
Right. So I was walking back from the bars. It was only like 6 blocks down, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I was walking down the alleyways. I was only one house away from mine, and I went a little early, and I didn't have to pee. So you can fill in whatever blanks you want on that. You'd probably be correct, because that's what I did. And so she never let her dog go to the bathroom in my yard again after that, though. I don't know if she knew I did that, but there was never a time where that ever came up.
Maybe she saw you too. And
it was 3 a.m. or something, but possible. So you and I met at the Kava bars.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived quite a few places, but I've always known about Kava because of Muhammad.
Right.
And Muhammad and I go way back, and
Us too.
yeah.
So
Audio technical
issue.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
where's that hole?
lived quite a few
That's what
places,
he
but
said.
I've always known about Kava because, sorry, folks. This doesn't make good good television. I go way back. And how did that randomly happen? You just like pulled them out.
Yeah, because I pulled him out to show the nipple video, and I forgot to plug him back in. But yeah, sorry about that. I totally forgot to do what I was supposed to do there. So yeah, Muhammad and I go way back as well. As you know, he's one of the co-founders of this channel.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I remember him telling us one day, he was like, "Yeah, my buddy Axl's coming tonight."
Yeah.
And
Low tide, yeah.
Yeah, low tide.
I was so happy to finally try it because I heard so much about it. I read, I'm really neurotic when it comes to like researching things. It's just my thing. So I knew so much about Kava, but I knew it was like a St. Pete thing. So living in Tennessee or Indiana, or I've lived everywhere. So I finally moved here. I was excited to try it. Well, the first time, I think when I met you the first time, I liked it, but I wasn't crazy about it.
That makes sense. That's kind of how that one goes.
Yeah. I bet it was on a Saturday where you just drink like a shit ton and you keep drinking it. But I was like, I'll just once in a while. I did. So it was like, one Saturday every couple months I'd go to low tide. So you can't make. I was a drinker.
Right.
I never drink and drive, but I would just drink at home a lot, like at night before bed. And so, it was right around Thanksgiving, and with my job, I have to, during hurricane season especially, I had to be kind of mindful of being able to drive very quickly in the middle of the night. And so, I was like, maybe I'll switch to Kava. And I was so sick of drinking alcohol, but, and I drank it. I had a lot of fun. I was at Muddy Water that time in St. Pete. And, I was like, you know what? This is stupid. Like, why would I keep drinking? I was like, drinking alcohol is stupid. It's
right.
I hated the way you felt afterwards. You're just constantly taking these risks. It's just stupid. And so I just stopped drinking alcohol, believe it or not. And then I went on, and that was, Thanksgiving. And then come February, I was on vacation. And I drank a couple times, but like I didn't get drunk. I'm like, this just feels like shit. I don't like it. When you drink, that's the thing about Kava, is when you drink it for a while, and you get used to it, and you enjoy it, and you know how it affects you. To go back to alcohol, it's like, wow, this is kind of the same thing as kava. You just feel shittier, and you can't control yourself, and you can't drive. So,
Right.
So I've been drinking kava since then. I think it's definitely been a lifesaver for me.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. Like
In many ways.
What's funny is, so I started drinking kava back. It's gonna be 5 years in exactly 1 month. I started
Nice.
drinking kava, and I was working on a congressional campaign for Lucas Overby. He was running as a libertarian, and he was running against David Jolly, and he always had his campaign meetings at a kava bar.
Was it his? Or was that because I followed Lucas when he started running? How long ago was that? 5 years ago, right?
That was 14.
Yeah. So he always had this at Mad Hatters.
Mad
right?
Hatters, yeah.
Yeah. Because he'd always check in at Mad Hatters.
Right.
And I'm like, that's how I first learned about it.
Yeah, so
I've been drinking it in spirit since then.
right. So yeah, we were having these meetings there, and I could drink the kratom because I was still drinking heavily.
Okay.
And one day he and I were having a Sarah Anderegg feels the need to find a San Diego kava bar. It's called Kava Collective.
Yeah, they're great.
yeah, they're
I
awesome.
met the owner there. Yeah.
This is their sticker. If you go there, tell them Matt Wright sent you, and
You'll get free kava the rest of your life.
possibly. I'm not going to guarantee that though. Say that you learned about it on this show, and you might get a discount. And and so we were hanging out there, and he was talking to me, and I was a little hungover that night, and he was like, "When was the last day you weren't hungover?" And I was like, "I don't know, man." And he was like, "Well, when was the last time you went without drinking?" And I was like, "I don't know, man."
Yeah.
He's like, "When was the last time you went without blacking out?" And I was like, "Listen, Lucas, I'm doing my job for your campaign." And he was like, "Yeah, I bet you can't go a month without drinking." And I was like, "All right, I'll take that bet right now." And he was like, "Okay." And he was like, if you do it, when I win," which he didn't, but when I win, you can come up to DC and be on my campaign staff. I was like, "Great." And he goes, "And I'll never bring it up again, and you can go back to drinking." And I was like, "Great," because that was exactly what my plan was. And so I started hanging out at Low Tide and Mad Hatters, and it was the worst month of my life. Like,
What, switching to kava?
switching to kava.
Really? Okay.
Like I went through like serious withdrawals. Like
Okay,
I was
yeah.
waking up in the middle of the night sweats, like
Oh, yeah,
DTs.
yeah, DTs, yeah.
It was awful. I woke up every day feeling worse than when I was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And like I got wicked restless leg syndrome just randomly.
Yeah.
And after the first 30 days I was like kind of feeling better, but I wasn't feeling great, and I was like, I don't ever want to go through this again, so I may as well just stick with it.
Yeah.
And September 7th will be 5 years since that day.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, way longer than me. I was pretty bad. Like, this isn't really about like me personally, but I was hardcore alcoholic for a long time. I actually ended up checking myself into rehab, like inpatient rehab. And I do open mic comedy sometimes. That's one of the things I talk about. But I went in Gary, Indiana for a month.
Okay.
So I don't know, people in Florida or anywhere, wherever you guys are, know about Gary, Indiana, but you're locked away you do it yourself. You lock yourself into it's a quasi hospital treatment facility, and so I was there a month, and then doing the sober life and going to AA meetings and all that. I think it serves a purpose, and it helped me at times. But your life revolves around sobriety. Your life revolves around AA, around avoiding alcohol, around that stuff. And it's just like after a year of that, it's like, this is tiring. I wanted to drink to get away from the sober lifestyle. And so I started drinking again a lot. And then now, again, it's been since Thanksgiving, and I'm not like, oh, I'm Axl, I'm sober. I just don't want to drink. And
Right.
I know we're just talking about kava a lot, but hey, it's what it's for, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It is the muddied waters.
It is the muddied waters. That's where we got the name. Yeah, I mean, I don't go around and say, yeah, I'm mad, I'm sober, I'm an alcoholic. if somebody's like, hey, let's go out and grab some beers, I say, I can't.
Yeah.
And when they're like, oh, why not? I'm like, because I'm a wicked alcoholic. And
Yeah.
if I start drinking again,
Yeah, you're going down that
Right.
rabbit hole.
And then everybody starts apologizing. I'm like, you didn't know. It's fine. Like, I don't care. Trust me, this isn't triggering for me.
So here's the thing: when you, especially like me, so when I went to rehab, I was very open about it with my friends. This is a few years ago.
Right.
And so I would go, and people like I'd go to my friend's house, and there'd be like a beer, and then they would get so like, I am so sorry. Like they'd hide it, or they'd somewhere they put it in like a McDonald's cup or something. I'm like, it's all right. Like I don't want to be at a bar, and I don't want to be around a bunch of drunk people. But it's okay to drink around me. I'm not going to be offended by it. But
Right.
that's another thing people don't realize when you're sober, that other people get really weird about it.
That is, yeah. That's one thing that people are like. I went to go visit a buddy of mine once, and he was like, do you know who John Mulaney, the comedian, is?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that bit because he's sober, and he's like, when you go to a party, people are always so weird to you about it. And I'm like, I've got a turnip. Is that going to be good for you?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Like I went to my buddy's house, and he's like, oh yeah, you don't drink. Got one of my kids' juice boxes. I was like,
is that too much like a cocktail to you? I don't want to trigger.
I don't want
anything.
to trigger anything. I was like, man, I'm good with water. Just give me a water. Do you have
No,
club
what are
soda?
we doing?
I'll drink that.
What's for dinner? That's what I care about.
Right. I just want to know what we're eating.
Yeah.
And now I want to leave.
Right.
But yeah, like I don't go. Like I'm not the guy that's gonna go around and say, yeah, I'm an alcoholic and you shouldn't drink around me. No, I'll go and hang out with you at a bar. I don't want to, but I will. I honestly believe I have a Bud Light in my fridge that's been there for 5 years.
I have a bottle of vodka in my kitchen that's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's one of my main, and we might talk about it if we get into how I became libertarian. But Doug Stanhope, when he quit smoking for a while, and he says the best way to do it is to have it available. And I think it's true, because it's like if you have that stuff, smoking, whatever your vice is, and you're trying to quit, if you have it available, you just know, like, okay, I can go then get it. I can go then drink it. I can go smoke that. I can go whatever. Having it available is a big deterrent. Whereas if it's not available, your mind starts planning it out. You start thinking about, okay, I got to go here. I got to go to the store, and then I'm going to go get it and all that. So it's true. And I've had a bottle of vodka in my kitchen, and I haven't touched it.
Yeah. No, I've had that beer. Like, I didn't even know it was there for a long time. And then one day I was cleaning out some stuff, and there was a beer sitting there, and I stared at it for a long time. I should probably get rid of that. And then I was like, but I also don't know how long it's been here, so I'm just going to leave it, because it's kind of like a trophy at this point.
Exactly.
Let's get into how you became a libertarian, because we talked about it a little bit briefly before the show. And you said Doug Stanhope actually had a little bit to do with it.
Yeah. So I was really into the show Penn and Teller's Bullshit.
Yeah.
And, again, that's not heavily in politics, believe it or not. It's more just like common sense stuff, like gun control and all that.
My favorite Penn and Teller's Bullshit was the one where they did the water sommelier.
Oh yeah. That was a later one, I believe.
Yeah, that one was so good.
Yeah, my favorite ones they did on recycling. It's fantastic. But so I like that. I was kind of getting into it. My friend at the time was libertarian. He's a real socialist now, which is unfortunate. But and so I was watching that, But I used to be a big socialist, like big liberal, you name it. Started watching that. I was getting into it. I moved to Chicago, so I lived in Chicago briefly, and I used to be super like gun control, take them all. And then you go there, and it was legitimate. I didn't go there like open-minded. I went to Chicago like, I love that there's no guns here, because at the time their guns were completely banned in Chicago, but it had the highest gun violence rate in the country. I'm sure it still does. And I'm like, well, this shit's not making sense. Like, this doesn't add up. Like, how do you have
how could there possibly be guns here?
Yeah, and then you hear all like the arguments for and against it. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. So I was like a really pro-gun socialist.
Right.
And then listening to Doug Stanhope's, podcasts and routines and all that got me into it. I went to college in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, joined the Young Americans for Liberty, and just kind of went from there. Started getting involved with Students for Liberty, and my all-time favorite out there, and you and I have talked about it, is Foundation for Economic Education.
Yes.
Did a lot of their conferences in the summer. We did one in Prescott, Arizona. We did 2 of them in Atlanta, Georgia. Just life-changing. And it was funny because I went to, I was involved in Yale and all that. I liked the social stuff, but the economics part of it just bored the hell out of me. I'm like, I don't care about numbers and markets and graphs and all that. And they said, well, come out to, there's a conference in Arizona, it'd be fun, learn something about it. So, I'll go there and I'll give it a try. I'll give this economics thing a try. And then 2-3 days later, and this, we were at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University out there in Prescott, and it was a blast. I was just so into economics, and I left there like, oh my god, I love this. And so I became really way more into the economic side of the the spectrum. So I love it. I think that the Chicago ones always I always look at that as a tipping point when I moved there. It's like that is anti-gun. I just that is heaven if you hate guns and you're into socialism, and you go there and it's hell. And I like the city of Chicago a lot.
The city of Chicago is one of my favorite cities
Absolutely,
I've ever been
but
to.
living there's a different story.
I bet.
So
Yeah, so you and I lived in Nashville during the same period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because I was moving to Chicago when I ended up in Nashville. It was by pure accident I ended up in Nashville, but we probably crossed paths.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, we were. There is 100% chance that we were either at Santa's Pub at the same time.
Santa's Pub, definitely.
Yeah, Santa's Pub definitely, or Mafioso's.
Mm-hmm.
One of those two places we were definitely at the exact same time. Had to have been. There's no way around it. Just because of the frequency of which we were both at Santa's Pub and I was at Mafioso's. Mm-hmm. It just had to happen. Yeah. But so you moved down there and then you joined the Libertarian Party when you got to Nashville, or
no? So when I first
Murfreesboro.
Yeah. So I first moved to Nashville. My job forced me to move there. I was working for a department store in loss prevention, so I was a store detective, and I moved down there against my will. I ended up moving around, and then, I've lived in a bunch of cities, and then I went back to Murfreesboro to go to Middle Tennessee State, and that's when I started getting into politics and stuff. And then I was going to Nashville. Then I was really involved in. That's when I started. That's why I would have ran into you at Maviosa's or any of the Liberty on the Rocks,
right?
Like the Santa's Pub.
The Lord of the Rings Club, Liberty on the Rocks. Yeah. So and then you became the comms director. And was there? You said that you did some. Was it Yale or CFL campus?
At Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
State? Yeah. So I was the president of the Young Americans for Liberty group out there.
Okay.
And it existed obviously before. That's what really pulled me in. Like I knew I had all these ideas. That's what really pulled me into going into politics was Young Americans for Liberty. They had a great chapter there. Our faculty advisor was a former president of the Federal Reserve.
Oh wow.
His name's Dr. William Ford. Great guy. He's super free market guy. President of the Federal Reserve in Atlanta, and is just major free market guy. He's incredible. So we had a good story. We had definitely one of the highest attendance, highest membership in all of Yale. From there, I went to an internship at Leadership Institute in Arlington, Virginia, just outside of D.C.
I know it well.
Yeah.
know that place real well.
Yeah, it's. I had a good time. I was in the studio there, so I did all the visual stuff. I didn't do anything political. It was all just like photography, videography, live broadcasts, things like that.
Right.
And then I got that's when I started getting disillusioned with politics. I'm like, that's when I started taking a step back. And I'm kind of getting back into it though.
Right. So you've been working. How long have you been working with the National Motorist Association?
So I've been associated with them as an activist since 2013.
Okay. And what is their main thing? Their main goal? What are they aiming for?
Yeah. So it's basically just it's freedom for motorists. It's scaling back against these laws and these regulations and the kind of bureaucracy around traveling and driving. Okay. As crazy as it sounds, there's a lot of things. I mean, it's this organization is founded in the 80s. They take very specific policy to different positions, like red light cameras, roadblocks, speed limits, automated traffic enforcement, like for speed and red light cameras, we already mentioned.
Would seatbelts fall under their?
Seatbelts fall under that. It's basically, excuse me. Same with with seatbelts, rather, it's encouraged to use seatbelts, and the organization encourages that. But the issue around seatbelt enforcement, where now it's a pre-crime, and it's a pre-crime to not wear your seatbelt, so they can pull you over for that,
right?
And give you money and take money from you for doing that,
right? Be better if they gave me money for it.
Yeah, I know, they should. I always tell people that when you have like red light cameras. I was like, we should just get rid of the red light cameras and have green light cameras. So if you know if you like stop at a red light, they can then give you money if you actually stop. But
Right.
I haven't thought that idea through all the way.
So I know that red light cameras and roadblocks have been massively contested, across the country. Now here in Florida, when I first moved here, I thought that red light cameras they got rid of them, but apparently I found out recently that they didn't.
They didn't know.
Yeah.
So it goes back and forth. At least in the state of Florida, there's always these kind of different challenges in the court. I think the most recent one, I believe, was in Homestead, Florida, where they the way it was set up was the contractor that ran the red light camera contract. So in other words, let's go back up a little bit. So you quote unquote run a red light. That image, the video of you running the red light, allegedly, the picture of your license plate is sent to another company. Most of the time, it's Redflex or Automated Traffic Solutions, based in Arizona. Both of them are. They're actually headquartered in Australia. A private contractor will review that, say, yes, this person ran a red light. They then look through the BMV records, get your information, and they send it to a police officer back in Florida. The police officer just says, okay, sends the citation out, quote-unquote citation out to you, and you pay it or you don't pay it. But like you said, they're contested everywhere. Anytime, anywhere in the country where red light cameras have been on the ballot, have been soundly defeated. It has never, ever been approved by voters. People hate them for a number of reasons, but I think people, even if you don't know a lot about them, you kind of know they're BS and that they don't do anything. And the central to that is a vast majority, nearly every ticket from a red light camera are split-second violations. These are when you have what's called an all-phase red, so every direction has a red light or they overlap slightly. That's when most of those get. These are, you just barely ran the red light, or you made the decision based on traffic around you, traffic behind you, weather conditions, whatever. You made the decision, okay, well, I can kind of make this yellow light, I got to gun it, and it's like that split second you gun it. And that's what triggers it. That's what they make the most money. If you added to those cameras, if you added a 1, 2, 3 second delay where the light can be red for 1 or 2, 3 seconds and no citations are issued, and you get it to after that, they'll all get shut down overnight. Every single one gets shut down. That's where they make their money. They don't make money from these random, several seconds after the light turned red. And those people that are doing that aren't doing it because they are scared of a $50 ticket. They're drunk or they have something else going on while they're doing it. They're not deterred by that.
Right. No, that makes sense. I am definitely I can make this yellow driver, which I don't often.
Right.
But the only time that I blew through a red light, it wasn't because I was mentally there.
Right, yeah.
It was for a multitude of other reasons, probably alcohol.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is we always mention that when, now we have those cameras, now people have cameras there, and a police officer's on the corner, and he sees you're drunk as hell, you blow through a red light, he sees that flash from the camera. As far as the police officer knows, okay, well, he got his ticket, he's good. He doesn't have any reason to stop you.
That's fair.
And so now you have people that should be stopped are now getting away and driving down the road. The cop thinks, it's so good, he got a ticket, who cares? They can't stop you. They have no discretion. They can't exercise. They can't look. They must say, well, maybe he gave me a good story. Maybe he ran the red light. He's sober. There's a big truck behind him. He's afraid to slam on his brakes. No ticket. You don't have that discretion. You can't look into things further than that, and that's another component to our opposition to red light cameras.
Gotcha. So when it shifting a little bit, shifting. So shifting a little bit, when it comes to roadblocks, where I grew up in Northern Virginia. I grew up in a small town, Manassas, just outside of Fairfax. And I would go into Fairfax a bunch.
I think we followed each other because, I lived in Arlington, and then we lived in Nashville, and now we're in Pinellas County and St. Pete. I think we're just following each other.
Right, we're just kind of slow. Like, it was just destined for us to eventually meet each other, and it just finally happened. So we would get roadblocks all the time. We got them so often. When I used them as an excuse for coming home late, my mom would always believe me.
Yeah.
100% of the time. I was like, I was coming back and got stuck at a roadblock. And she's like, yeah, they do them on 28 every night now. And I'm like, I know, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God you bought that. Like, even back then, I wasn't really doing anything wrong. I was just driving back from a friend's house or driving back from the movies or something, and I was completely sober. I was a good Christian boy back then, and I would get pulled. I would get stuck at one of these things, and they'd pull me over, and that's when I got most of my seatbelt tickets. And
that's the important thing to note, because I gotta detour you a little bit. That's what they're for. Let's just get any pretense that they're for getting drunk drivers off the road. That's not what they're for. They're for giving you equipment violations, seatbelt violations. Oh, I smell weed. Let me look in this car a little bit more. Okay, You're good. They're for checking your ID. It's a fishing expedition. That's what they are. They can call it what they want. They can put faces of people that got killed in drunk driving accidents on the side of the highway all they want. In Tennessee, they started naming sobriety checkpoints after people killed by drunk driving accidents.
Did they really?
They started naming them that, yeah. So that's what they started doing there. And like I said, just get rid of any pretense that's what they're for. And here's why I can tell you that. The FBI did a study in Tennessee, of all places, that basically said, let's have a certain amount of police officers dedicated to a stationary roadblock that's pulling every driver over, asking the questions, and seeing if they're drunk and moving them on. Let's have that same amount of resources doing more like aggressive patrols, which is something we actually see here in Pinellas County, like called wolf packs.
Okay.
Which is more effective in getting drunk drivers off the road. The ones that are out patrolling, in other words, they have probable cause to pull you over. They're not just out randomly pulling you over. They have to be out there looking hardcore for people, weaving in and out of traffic, crossing the fog line, things like that. The money and the resources on those doing those patrols had a far greater impact on drunk driving. They got way more drunk drivers, whereas at a checkpoint you get very few. In fact, it's pretty common not to get one drunk driver out the road in a checkpoint. You might get one or two. Most of it is just, I forgot my insurance card. My insurance card isn't in my glove box.
Right.
So you get a ticket for that, and you have to go to court and answer to that. That's what they're for, and that's why they do it. And there's be honest with you, there's a certain theatric element to you, and you have 10 cops with their lights on, and all these traffic cones and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty sickening, and I'm pretty happy with how it's done here, because again, I'm not super thrilled about having extra cops out just looking for out fishing, but they at least respect that your constitutional rights.
Right. They're not just stopping everybody to
indiscriminately.
Indiscriminately, just to try to find a way into the car. And that was the issue I had. Like when I was 17 or whatever, I was like, why is this? I was mainly upset that I was going to miss curfew. Right. And I was like, why is it that I'm getting a hit here? Like,
yeah,
I got 5 minutes to get home, man.
Yeah. Well, it's
I live 10 minutes from here.
Yeah. There was a big thing during Black Lives Matter where they were like, oh my God, I can't believe these protesters are out blocking highways. They go out and protest in the street for 10 minutes. I'm like, well, they're protesting against the cops, but then the cops do the same exact thing regularly. There's no difference. The only thing Black Lives Matter, they hold a sign up, whereas the police have guns on them and dogs, and they're trying to get you in trouble for victimless crimes.
Black Lives Matter, when they do it, they're going to make you late for work. When the police do it, and
you're late for work,
and you might get shot.
Yeah.
So I know that roadblocks have been challenged by the Supreme Court time and time again, and the Supreme Court always says that yes, they're constitutional.
In certain cases. So there are several states whose state Supreme Court don't allow it. Texas, I think, is the major one. In other words, their Supreme Court says no, roadblocks are not okay in the state because it goes against the constitutional right, against unnecessary seizure and all other stuff. There's you're stopping people in initiating law enforcement action with no probable cause. And so they don't know. That's why in Texas it is strictly forbidden, and several other states, I don't remember all of them, based on their interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. And so, yeah, it depends. There's been different court cases in Michigan. I think it's kind of like the main one that they cite, where I don't know the name of it, but I do know for a fact that the one that's often cited as it makes them legal across the country is as long as it was with a deterrent. In other words, if the main objective of a DUI checkpoint is deterrence, they're legal. And so initially that was like they highly publicized them. They'd be all over the news, all over the radio, newspaper. They do all this stuff and say, hey, we have this big checkpoint everyone should know about. There's going to be a big checkpoint on, US 40 somewhere. And now it's kind of scaled that back because they don't want people to know about it.
Right.
So it started to scale back. Now on a technicality, they'll put it on Facebook like, oh, by the way, the Marion County Sheriff's Office will be doing a checkpoint, a 2 a.m. post, because they fulfilled their obligations to make it a deterrent and notify the public, but they're hoping people know about it. And so there's that surprise, shock, and awe when you drive it down the street.
Right. One thing that Tennessee started doing, way off subject, but one thing Tennessee started doing, I don't know how long they've been doing it, is they were posting the number of drunk driving deaths every year.
Yeah.
Like on the highways?
On those dynamic message boards, because I always remember when it was like this is really mean, when it was like at 665, it's like, oh man, this next one, and then it would go to 666 as the highway fatalities, and it's like, oh geez. So it's like, I hope it doesn't rise from here, but 666 is not a good number.
Right.
It's a scary. It's a way to scare people.
Like,
that's what it's doing.
I mean, it is, but at the same time, like, it's also awful because, like, I don't blame video games for anything, really.
Right.
But at the same time, when it gets into November, and it's like 2018's highway fatalities, 1,078. And you're at 997, you're going, we may make it. We may beat it. Like, we could beat it.
There's that evil voice in the back of your head that says stuff like that.
Right. And, like, the last year I was living there, the last full year that I lived there, 2012, I mean, we beat it right at the end. And I remember having a moment where I was like, we did it. And I was like, oh, man, what is wrong with
That's
me?
evil. You're a terrible person.
Well, yeah, no, we are. Everybody knows that already.
No, but yeah, I want to be clear though that either me nor the organization I'm representing in any way endorses drunk driving or running red lights or doing anything stupid. We just think there should be there's some nuance there. And we think how long ago was the blood alcohol content law? I mean, it was 0.1 or it was 0.1 for a while.
It was 0.1. So it started out,
0.08.
I know that. And I'm basing this strictly on Mad Men, but back in the 60s, it was like 0.2.
Yeah.
Which, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it would have been when I got my DUI. But if it was 0.2 still. And then it went down to 0.1, and then they lowered it to 0.08. And I read a couple of years ago they were thinking about lowering it to 0.05.
Yeah, it's going down to 0.05. That's happening. I mean, that's just something we all have to accept. It's going to go down to 0.05. And now it's like a lot of states, I don't know about Florida, but if you're under 21 years old, if you have even like a trace amount of alcohol in your system, you're DUI.
That's DC. The city of DC. Okay. That's anybody.
Yeah, okay.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how old you are. If you blow anything. A friend of mine's dad had a glass of wine with dinner and was driving back home. He got pulled over, blew a .02, got a DUI. Yeah,
and that's the way it's going for every state. That's of course we have the federal government can withhold funds for road projects and all that, and that's the way. That's how it got down to 0.08, and it's gonna go down to 0.05. It's gonna keep going down and down, and you want to encourage the same with speed limits. You want to encourage compliance. You want to encourage people to do the right thing.
Right.
But when you have like a speed limit that you can drive safely 65, but it's set at 40. Or you can drive perfectly fine at 0.09, but now it's 0.08. Now you're a hardened criminal on the same level as somebody that's just shit-faced.
Right.
We say our position on that is 0.12 is generally the kind of where you're truly intoxicated. I different for different people, but that's kind of like the point where you reach intoxication where you're not safe to drive.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we've seen in the studies, but. It's about the money. It's not about safety. And if you look at any position that the National Motorist Association takes, or the position I take, it's just about the money. It's not about safety at all. So
yeah, that's like when they first started talking about lowering it to 0.05. I said this isn't about safety. This is fundraising.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
This is 100% fundraising. That's all that it is. And I think that MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, was the one that was fighting for it.
Yeah, they're just take the words of someone else. They're propaganda whores. I mean, they're just propaganda whores. What they say is just it's BS, and they're fear mongers.
Right.
Anyone that as we see with another famous organization that uses the motherhood, maternal instinct to advocate for a very socialist, pro-government, fascist agenda. I don't fall for it, and people don't fall for it for moms demand action or whatever, and they shouldn't fall for moms against drunk driving.
Right.
Now, I don't doubt that there's people, mothers, even people in these organizations that truly feel they're doing the right thing. I don't fault them for that. I don't think they're bad people. But what they do and what they advocate for, it goes against, it does the opposite of what they want to happen, I think.
Right. So, speed limits, you kind of touched on it really quickly. I know that you, on highways, I just don't believe in them. Like, they don't exist, really, to me. They do to the police that pull behind me.
Right.
And to the cops that are around me. But, so where do you guys stand on speed limits?
So our stand, it actually follows, in fact, a lot of our positions follow this, is there's something called the Uniform Traffic Code, which is kind of like the policy manual for all traffic engineers, people that build roadways and traffic controls follow this. What it should be is at the 85th percentile of the prevailing speed. So this is about the 85th percentile of free-flowing traffic. So if you're driving, if you can safely drive down a highway, there's no obstructions, it's flat, there's not like cross traffic, you can go there safely 65. People will go 65. And so we'd go at the 85th percentile of that speed is what the speed limit should be. There's, just to give you a quick story about the speed limits, the New York Thruway, there was a study conducted in the New York Thruway. The speed limit was 55, the average speed was 68 miles per hour. And so they wanted to, someone in government said we should raise this to 65 because people are going 68 anyway. Overwhelmingly, the response to that was now people are going to start going 78.
Right.
And so, just fear-mongering left and right. So they raised it from 55 to 68. And they studied it for 18 months. I'm sorry, 55 to 65.
I was like, man, they made it 68. That's
exactly 68.
That's an odd...
Not that, yeah.
That's an odd one.
Yeah, so they raised it to 65, and they studied it for 18 months. The average speed remained at 68. So setting speed limits where they should be and not just artificially low so they can get pull people over indiscriminately and take money from them. When we're at where people drive safely, people do drive safely, and that's another misconception. If you're driving through a school zone or something, you see little kids on the side of the road, you're not going to go. You don't care what the speed limit is. You're going to drive what you feel is safely, your reaction time, weather conditions, things like that. Will people ignore that and fly through a school zone every now and then? Of course they will. Will they do it now? Yes. They do it with cops on the side of the road. They still do it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is fear mongering, but we definitely think it should be set as 85th percentile, which is what the engineer said it should be set at.
Right. So I know, like here in Florida, the speed limits actually aren't terrible.
Not at all. No.
No, they really aren't. Like it's 40 on most streets that aren't residential.
40, 45. Yeah. And then,
like 30,
I live on a
30.
residential street. It's 45. So.
Okay.
And I also think that they're at least in Florida, the law enforcement here seems to be pretty hands off generally about traffic anyway. I drive all over Tampa Bay, all over the state of Florida really.
They're sticklers for parking though.
Parking, yes, and on the tollways they're pretty strict. Yeah. But I don't think but good things to say about the cops here. Just really like but I think, and overwhelmingly too, if you going back to red light cameras, and roadblocks. Your rank and file patrol guys absolutely hate them. I've been doing this since 2013. I've never met a police officer, just a rank and file kind of guy that likes the cameras or likes roadblocks. Right. Now that's not to say they'll do it as overtime, but they don't look that far into it. But they don't like them. They'll just like, okay, well I have to do it, or it's overtime. I get bills to pay. I get that, but overwhelmingly, that's not the police aren't supportive of that.
Right. So if somebody were to get a red light ticket, do you guys have directions on how to fight it? Yeah, so we have, if you want to become a member, and I don't work for them, I don't take any money from this association, but membership's super cheap. It's like $10 or $15, and they have it's like a 200-page document on how to fight tickets. That's every ticket. And I've been through it. It's a big book that you download for free when you become a member, and it has really good advice on speeding, how to fight speeding tickets yourself, and all that. It's actually really good. Specific to road light camera, it's really funny. So let's go to Tennessee for instance. In Tennessee, if you get any speeding camera ticket or red light ticket,
it gets sent to you as a $50 ticket.
Right.
If you don't pay it after 60 days, it becomes like 100, 125.
Right.
In Tennessee, if you don't pay a road light camera ticket, absolutely nothing happens to you. It's codified in the state code. So it's Tennessee Code's annotated 55.8.198 subsection M, specifically says non-payment of a red light camera ticket has no bearing. It cannot affect your credit report. It can't go on your license. It can't be reported. Nothing happens. So if you don't pay it in Tennessee, absolutely nothing happens. They'll keep asking you for money, and then when the red light camera company doesn't get payment, they'll send it to these other scammy organizations that look like a law firm and say, you are obligated to pay this. So it was funny when I first started, in 2013, when I first started getting public with this, I'd be on the news and radio stations and stuff, and they'd say that's not really true. I say it absolutely is. Look it up. They'd look it up. I'm like, well, I think there's more to that. And so finally, I was like, let's put an end to this. So I went to a city council meeting. I said something to it. And the city councilmen were like, oh, they read it. They're like, oh, that's interesting. And then they asked the police chief and the city attorney. They said, we're reading 55.8.198 subsection M, and it specifically says that you don't pay it, nothing happens. And they're like, yeah, technically nothing we can do, but you should still pay it. It's the right thing to do. And then the city attorney was like, yeah, nothing happens if you don't pay it. Like, we're not allowed to do anything. Just rip it up and throw it away. But we still think you should pay. Like, just give us money. Just give the money. Just give the government your hard-earned money. But
Right.
That's what happened. And so in Florida, what happens in Florida is a little bit different. It's unfortunate, but you get it's basically a non-moving kind of infraction. If you don't pay it, then the red light camera company will then ask the circuit court to write you a uniform traffic citation.
Okay.
And then you have to fight that in court.
Yeah.
I
was like, man, if I ever get one, I'm not paying it now.
Well, in Tennessee, you don't pay it, but in Florida, you do have to address it. But like I said, first of all, they don't know who was driving. How can a police officer sign a uniform traffic citation and give it to somebody not knowing if they were actually driving or not?
Right.
You're citing the owner of the vehicle, not the driver. And when they go on the news and all that, and they say, we given so many of these drivers, like, you don't know who any of those people were running red lights. You just gave it to the owner of the vehicle. And they say, well, the owner of the vehicle can sign an affidavit saying who was driving. So now then, if a mechanic or someone driving my car runs a red light, and I wasn't driving it, and then I'm then obligated to essentially write a ticket to a friend or someone that's working on my car and to give them a ticket, when I don't even know if they were the one driving, and it just becomes this whole ridiculous web of making accusations against other people. It's like, it doesn't work that way. If a police officer, if a police officer sees you do it, fine. But just giving tickets that happens to be the owner of the vehicle, it makes a mockery of the system, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. I know that Stephen Ruth.
Yeah.
Stephen Ruth, Red Light Robin Hood.
Long Island. Yep.
Yep. Up in New York.
Look up his videos on YouTube. He's great.
Yeah.
He I don't. It's been a long time, but yeah, he's definitely not someone I'm not that ballsy, but he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that he was going around, and I'm guessing that it's New York, so the red light laws are probably much worse than almost anywhere else.
Yeah, in California it's like $300 to $500. Yeah.
That's not surprising even a little bit. But he was going around and he was taking like a long pole or something and just pushing
painter's pole, yeah.
Yeah, and then pushing.
I don't advocate that, and neither does the NMA, but it's hilarious.
But it's funny. And he was just pushing it up, and I know he did an interview with some station, but
he did it in front of a news crew. Yeah, he called a news crew to the intersection and said, here's, these are stupid. This is how stupid I think they are. And the reporter's like, did that just happen? Did you just do that? And he's like, yeah. So.
But they didn't air it, right?
I don't know. It's on YouTube, but I don't know. I would assume it got aired because that was a part of the story. It definitely got aired. I mean, he's done it several times. But.
Right. Yeah. No. Well, so I know that's one. Like, I think one of the times the internet service provider that did the internet to the red light cameras was the same one that owned the news station, and they said, you're not airing that.
Yeah. Well, it's just that doesn't surprise me. Just like if you look at who owns these photo enforcement contractors, it ends up going to like some kind of investment company like Berkshire Hathaway that own insurance companies.
Right.
And so that leads me to another point where often whenever I do these interviews about red light cameras, reporters will always come to me and say, well, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety says that they do this great job and they just reduce accidents. It's like, they work for the insurance company. Are you really that dense?
Right.
When you get a red light camera ticket, it raises your rates, and they make money from it. They do not represent safety of the motorists. They represent the insurance companies that pay them. And I'm not trying to sound like conspiracy theory. It's literally, insurance is in the title of this organization, okay? They work for the insurance companies. Any argument they put out, any study that they put out, has to be known that it's viewed through the lens of they work for the insurance companies. And they are looking out for the bottom line of their clients, basically. So yeah, hi people. I've never. This is my first time on a podcast.
Yeah.
To be honest, I guess we're obligated to say hi to people.
I mean,
Max, Jacob, Maria, Sarah says thanks for reminding me to pay a parking ticket for the meter ending 5 minutes before I got to it. Yeah, I hate parking tickets so much. And I've always lived downtown. I live in downtown Clearwater now, so I'm always subjected to that, and it is what it is. But so I mentioned Clearwater. I want to real quick just. Something that I'm working on right now, in the city of Clearwater, the red light camera contract is coming up for renewal next week.
okay.
And so as part of that, I've done an enormous amount of open records requests, looking into emails, looking at the reports, looking at stats, looking at traffic counts, at great personal expense to me. Time and money, but
And this isn't your full-time job, so this is what you're
It's
doing.
not my full-time
This is
job.
what you're
It's
doing
just
when you're off of work.
when I'm off work,
Okay.
and my full-time job is very full-time, but it's done a lot of work. And so let me real quick paint a picture for those. In the city of Clearwater, there's 2 intersections that are controlled by red light cameras.
There's only 2?
Only 2 intersections. They're pretty big ones. It's again, sorry if you're not in Pinellas County at home. It's Belcher and Gulf Bay, and then Chestnut and Fort Harrison as you come off the causeway from
Right.
Clearwater Beach.
Yeah.
So real quick, so in 2012, when the cameras were installed in the city of Clearwater, in 2012 there were at these 2 intersections. There were 92 crashes in 2012. In 2017, it went up to 141 crashes. Accidents at these intersections. So let's keep in mind, they installed the red light cameras, so they want accidents to go down, they want red light running to go down.
Right.
That's the 2. You can make a gazillion arguments about red light cameras. Believe me, I can talk about it all day. But what it comes down to is some of the 2 issues, which is it reduces red light. They wanted to reduce red light running. They wanted to reduce accidents. So we look at the accidents. That's 92 crashes in 2012, all the way up to 141 crashes in 2017. The argument to that, what Chief Slaughter says, is, well, traffic counts have gone way up because the economy's gotten better, and traffic goes up, the accidents go up. The volume didn't increase. We're looking at City of Clearwater traffic stats, and we're looking at Forward Pinellas traffic stats. Forward Pinellas is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. It's an official county. It's an arm of the county government. They do traffic counts every year. Traffic volume stayed the same. Accidents went way up. Traffic volume stayed the same. So that's not an argument. The fact of the matter is you cannot spin it. Accidents at these intersections have gotten infinitely more dangerous. So let's take that out of the equation. Let's look at how many red light runners. We can count that because we know how many tickets are given out at these intersections. So 2013, which is the first full year that these cameras were in operation in the city of Clearwater, they issued 8,275 tickets to red light runners. In 2018, they issued 17,691 tickets. So red light running, let me put this in perspective. From the time they were installed, the first full year of operation, until 2018, doubled. Red light running has doubled after the installation of these cameras. Now look at that and tell me that this is a good idea. And so, of course,
I mean, for the city, it is like
they make a lot of money.
They're making a ton of money.
A lot of money. And, look at accidents have gone way up. Red light running has doubled since these cameras were installed. And I could back all this up with data, okay? This is actually, the tickets come from Redflex, which is the city's red light camera company provider. Every month they send you how many tickets were given out, so you had to add them all up. Way too much time I spent on that, but it's worth it because I got good info that
Right.
I guarantee nobody else looks at this,
right,
including the police.
Guaranteed.
But I can show them the report. So I called the Chief Slaughter, the Clearwater Police Chief. He's actually a great guy. I like him a lot. The Clearwater police officers are great people. I said, hey, I just curious, are you guys?
That's probably the first time that's ever been said on this show.
Right?
I usually
believe it or
not
not.
what people are saying about the police
Yeah,
when they come on here.
I've changed a little bit, but they're great people. But I asked the chief of police. I said, hey, I live in Clearwater. I'm just, I see that the red light camera company, the contract's coming back for renewal. What do you think about it? His first question was, why, are you trying to sell more of them? he had no idea who I was. So I said, no, I'm just asking a question. He goes, yeah, it's definitely going to be, we're going to renew it in August. We're going to put it for, we're going to give it to city council to be renewed in August.
Right.
And so I said, okay, well, what does a good successful program look like to you? And he didn't really give me a straight answer. And I said, okay, well, and I'm not going to give him everything I just told you guys. That's not going to be told to anyone until the city council meeting. When this contract comes up, all this information is going to be dropped out there, and they can't spin it, because that's what they do, is they try to spin it. They fly in people to spin the data. But, I said, what does a successful program look like to you? And it didn't give me an answer. And I said, well, their accidents have gone way up, and red light running has gone way up at these intersections. And he kind of said, well, my thing is if they are, if you're running a red light, you should get a ticket. That's all I got to say about that. I said, okay. And that's where it stands. So next, actually, it'll be, today's Thursday?
Today is Thursday, yes.
Yeah.
All day.
So, next, this coming Wednesday is the city council meeting. And there's the city of Clearwater is very open and transparent. They actually allow you to go speak not only at the beginning, but they allow you to speak after. So if there's like an agenda item,
right,
and then they'll say, well, we want to pass an ordinance or something to do this. They actually give citizens the chance to speak after the city presents their case, which is, every city should do that, in my opinion. So the city's going to go give their case. They're going to plead. They're going to give their BS. And I'm going to give my information to them for 3 minutes, and then they vote on it. And so I'm really hoping, because this is a multi-million-dollar program. And I don't think they're going to, what's that?
How much is a red light ticket here?
I don't know. Believe it or not, I've never gotten a red light camera ticket. So everyone tells every reporter is like, oh, you're just supposed to be mad that you get tickets. I've never gotten a ticket, but I believe they're 125-ish, maybe a little bit less.
125, so at 17,000, we'll round down.
Yeah. Well, and then it gets really convoluted, because the company that runs these actually get quite a bit of money from this, because it costs a lot of money to do it.
Right.
But it's insane. And they're not another thing too, the city, and this is true with Tennessee, every city, when you look at it, is the police chief sets the budget, and they set how much money they think that these tickets are going to make for the city. They always say, every day they do it, say these are going to reduce red light running. So if you say it's going to reduce red light running, you're effectively saying you're expecting revenue to go down at these intersections, at these cameras every year. It never happens. The city of Clearwater budgets $500,000 every year as revenue to the city, not total. This is revenue to the city of Clearwater, $500,000 every single year. So they go to the city council and say, and the citizens say, these will reduce red light running. Mayor and city council, these will reduce red light running. And then they go write their budget, and they put on here, it'll stay the same or get more. So it's double phased. It's mind-boggling how that works. But
you wouldn't think that a government program would do the exact opposite.
I know,
and reduce
it's
whatever it is that they're trying to do. It's,
I know. Catch your breath, folks. But it's all about the money.
It's a war on people running red lights. Oh, look, more people do it. That is just about all the time we have, actually. Man, I have to ask. You said you do stand-up. Do you do stand-up open mics?
So it's. I know we're out of time, but I'll go.
No, I mean we can go over. It's a podcast. There's no limits.
We don't get cut off for network programming.
Right? Yeah. We don't have a commercial break I have to go to.
Yeah. It was funny. I've been a huge stand-up comedy fan my whole life. And this time last year, they do an open mic in downtown St. Petersburg. Actually, I used to live there, right a block away from it. It's called Iberian Rooster.
Oh, yeah.
And they do open mics, I believe, on Wednesday nights. And so I've been there to see it, and I've always had this idea to do open mic. And so I heard, I think a Tampa Bay Times reporter put on at Twitter, his name's Chris Spada. He's a great guy. He put out there, he's like, hey, I want to talk to someone and follow them doing stand-up comedy for the first time. And so my first stand-up comedy, if you can imagine how nerve-wracking it is. Telling your stupid dick jokes to people and hoping they laugh. And imagine doing that in front of a big crowd of strangers. You've never met any of them before, on stage, you're trying to be funny. Now imagine a reporter for the largest newspaper in the state of Florida and a photographer documenting everything you're doing up there for 5 minutes. It was so nerve-wracking. But at the end of it, I had a blast. I had so much fun with it. It was very scary, but when you're out there, there's so many lights on you, you don't see the crowd, and you're just like, okay. In my head, I'll just tell myself everyone's laughing, having fun. They're probably sitting there, but I had a lot of fun with it, and I ended up. I thought he did the story about it, and ended up going on. It was like an online story. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just like a little fun story they put online, and so I was on Sunday morning. I was leaving church, going back. Another thing that might have never been said on this podcast is I left church on Sunday. Is that true?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's ever been said on this podcast either.
No, I was coming back.
I had to think about that one for a second. I was like, maybe.
I didn't believe you're all heathens, but
yeah.
well, at church there, I was going back to my car. My phone was blowing up, and I was on the front page of me holding a microphone telling dick jokes, and so it was a lot of fun. It was the most nerve-wracking thing, and my phone has just been blowing up since then. My dick jokes, my Rosa Parks jokes really took off, and my phone has been blowing up from I've been on Stephen Colbert.
I'm sorry, your Rosa Parks jokes.
Yeah, we'll talk about that off the air, but
okay.
It's not a racist joke, I promise. But yeah, my phone's been blowing up. I've been on all kinds. No.
I was like,
that was the one time I did it. Yeah,
I was like, you were on Stephen Colbert.
Yeah. Another conversation, but no, I had fun doing it, and I'll probably never do it again. So it was fun, but
nice. Yeah, I had no idea. I think I remember somebody saying Axl's doing stand-up tonight, and I think I'd talked to you twice, and I was like, Axl.
He's not that funny. Why would he be doing that?
He's kind of quiet. Is this what? Okay, all right. And I was like, hope that goes well.
I know. It's like I know because it's like I'm such a nerd. I'm like I could talk to you about every stupid motorist rights and transportation policy initiative in the country. It's hard to I do enjoy funny stuff every now and then.
Yeah. No, my favorite stand-up is Mike Birbiglia.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah.
He's great. And I just went through and I watched everything of his again the other day. Yeah. I watch him probably 4 times a year. And I just went through them all in one day the other day.
And yeah, going back to Stanhope, a huge inspiration to me both, professionally and comedically. His album No Refunds, very libertarian.
Very libertarian.
Yeah, it does a lot of libertarian points, and he's absolutely hilarious. I've seen him a million times, and his podcast is great. I never miss an episode of his podcast, and he's great.
It's almost as good as ours, but yeah.
Almost, yeah, not quite. I mean, he doesn't live across the street from a Bernie Sanders mailbox.
That's true.
He's beat by that.
I mean, he might.
He probably in Bisbee, Arizona.
Never been to his house. But yeah, Mike Birbiglia, John Mulaney.
Yeah.
Louis C.K. I don't care about I don't care about that issue. It's Louis C.K.
And he's a comedian. I hate to tell you, but every comedian is involved in that in some way, shape, or
form.
Not me. Yeah. I'm not a comedian. I'm telling dumb jokes. I'm telling dumb, stupid stats about driving. But
right.
Big time comedians all have some kind of horrible Me Too story, and right. I don't endorse it. But
Axl, he came and he talked to me about driving statistics, and let's just say that it was not consensual.
We were talking about about DUIs and 85th percentile of speed limits. Then we went to the green room, and oh my god, it just went. I didn't think that, but I didn't think it would go that direction
so quick. Do you have anything that you would like to plug? Tell the people about. I'll give you however long you want to do it. Really.
No, I don't have anything to add. I don't work for them, but I definitely would get involved in motorists.org. It's National Motorist Association. You can just Google that. I believe the website's motorists.org. To be a member is, like I said, it's like $10-15. It's super cheap, and it goes towards the what we do. And the organization's been around a very long time. They fight a lot of that stuff and, advocate a more common sense approach. I hate the word common, and that's what I was yesterday I was thinking of how to do my elevator speech.
Right.
The term common sense and the word of politics has been co-opted to just mean stupid stuff.
Yes, it's like common sense gun control.
Common sense gun control or common sense than that. I hate so it's like I gotta find another way of phrasing this, but they do. It's a very common sense approach to transportation policy and motorist rights. So definitely get involved in that. I think motorist.org. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for everybody else, thank you for watching. Please please share. If you are listening to this on iTunes, Google, Radio Public, any of the other ones, hit the old favorite button, subscribe, share with your friends, leave a comment, and I'll probably write back. And by probably, I'll write back. If you are looking for us on the social media, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Muddied Waters of Freedom. You can find us on Instagram at Muddied Waters of Freedom. You can find us on Twitter at Muddied_Waters. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Muddied Waters of Freedom. We are now on Flote, FLOTE, for anybody who has never heard of that one. And we are flote.app, FLOTE.app/Muddied Waters Media. I actually just had to look.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was like Muddied Waters Media, like 1535, because all the other Muddied Waters were taken on float.app.
Yeah, on float.app, all the other Muddied Waters people tried to take it from it. And you can find this and every episode at muddiedwatersmedia.com. Tomorrow night, Shabbat Shalom, as Spike says. Jason Lyon with the Shabbat episode of Mr. America, the Bearded Truth. Then we're taking 2 days off, and Jason Lyon returns next Monday with his regular episode of Mr. America, the Bearded Truth. And Jason Lyon, congratulations to him, because next Tuesday will be his very first co-hosting of Muddied Waters of Freedom. I am out of town. And then my fellow Americans next week on Wednesday with Spike Cohen. And there's no episode of the Writer's Block next week because I will be in Cleveland. Nice. Never been to Cleveland. Not looking forward to it.
Go to Cedar Point. It's the only thing. I think it's outside of Cleveland. Quite a ways,
yeah, I think I'm not really sure what. That is in Sandusky.
It's in Sandusky.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going up there to see Red Sox game with my dad, and
nice.
we're gonna go hit the Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. That's the only other thing I know about Cleveland. Is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Only two things I know about Cleveland. I think they have the Browns.
Yeah. Allegedly.
And they used to have LeBron James.
Yeah.
That's it. But tune into all of that. Next week I will not be here. I'll be back the week after that with Aaron Nakamoto. We are finally getting that show going on. Either that or this is just going to turn into a Jimmy Kimmel, Matt Damon thing where I just always apologize to her. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and be sure to catch Jason's show tomorrow.
Hot mic. What's this other?
I am swinging from a 7-story window, throwing parties in a 10-by-7 cell. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help. Yeah, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'll try to use your body as a life raft, 'cause if there's room enough for one, there must be room enough for two. I'll sail the good ship you into the sunset, sipping on savory water till my liver turns blue. Sha-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Is broadcast in the evening news. I will be relieved. La, la, I am waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. I'm waving while I drown. Don't bother swimming out to save me, I will only drag you down. La, 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 la. Singing, hey, hey, alright, yeah, I wrote that one myself. It's astounding the lengths I'll go to convince the whole damn world I don't need anybody's help.